Hello, it's Yvonne from the Fabric Hut. Welcome to my sewing room. Today for Classic Block, we are going to work on a Shoo Fly block. This is just a very versatile, fun block to do. It's kind of a beginner block, but you can use it for many, many different things. I'm going to show you how to do triangles or half square triangles, 2 at a time. We're going to talk about pressing. We're going to talk about squaring up triangles. What else? We're going to talk about a whole bunch of different things with this block. We're also going to play with it a little bit and see what you can do with these very same pieces, just turning them around a little bit, and you get a whole nother block. So we're going to play with pieces. We're going to just have lots of fun. So join me at my sewing machine and let's get going. Alrighty, so let's start this block. For this particular block, we are going to need 3 of our focus fabric and 6 of our background fabric. So it seems like a lot, but it really is not. So 3 of the focus, I'm using Fizzy Pop again, and this is actually the white on white pack, and look at it. I don't know if you can see that pattern, but look how close it is to the Fizzy Pop. I just thought that would be really fun together. So that's what we're going to do today. So we're going to start by setting aside our all but 2 of our white or background fabrics. So these guys, got to figure out which is right side up. And I am going to use my ruler and a marking pen. No, I have pink. I hope that's bright enough. If not, I'll change to a darker one so you can see. But we are going to make our half square triangles 2 at a time. So we're going to draw our line diagonally across our 2 of our white background square. Yeah, you can see that, can't you? Okay, 2 of our background squares on the back of the fabric from diagonal point to diagonal point. Just like that, okay? And then we are going to pair them up right sides together with 2 of our focus fabric. Right there and right there. And I want them to be nice and straight. You notice that sometimes when you get a charm pack, there's a little bit of difference. So we have a little bit bigger of a focus fabric. In the end, it's not going to matter because I'm going to be trimming this down when I'm done. So the important part is to line up corners to corner. And if you have a little bit hanging off, that's okay, but we want it nice on the corners. Okay, so for this particular application, I'm going to use my 1/4 inch foot without the guide. I need to move my needle over to the right part of my machine. I want it to where I'm getting 1/4 inch from here, and we are good to go. So I'm going to sew 1/4 inch on each side of this diagonal line. Ready? And because it's just so much easier, I'm going to chain piece them together. Now I do have the function that my presser foot will rise between, when I stop sewing, my presser foot rises, so it makes it real easy just to feed in the next piece. If not, you're going to reach back and raise your presser foot a little bit. You do not want to let your machine sew without fabric under it. Some of the older machines, like some of the real old Singers, it doesn't matter, but these are not chain stitch machines. A chain stitch machine catches that bottom thread and does a chain, and those you can run without thread in them, like your serger. You can do that. But with your domestic sewing machine, you should always have a fabric under it. Between blocks, sometimes I take a stitch or 2, but if you take any more than that, you are going to run the risk of your thread getting twisted around your needle or around your bobbin, and then you're not going to get a good stitch anymore. So always make sure that you have fabric under your needle when you're sewing. Don't sew 5 or 6 stitches without it. 1, maybe 2 is fine, but you don't want a whole bunch. Okay, so now I have them sewn on both sides of that diagonal line. I'm going to clip it loose. There we go. Now, I used white thread because we have white fabric, but can you see the lines here? I am going to now cut right on the marked diagonal line. Bring up my mat. Oh, while I'm doing this, I probably should turn my iron on so it's nice and warm when I'm ready to use it. There we go. Okay, now we are cooking with gas. Okay, so you don't have to be really exact. You can do this with a scissor if you want, but because I have my stuff close, I like to just use my rotary cutter and just go right down it. Now you have 2, and we need 4 half square triangles, so we will cut both of these, and that will make our 4. Okay, there we go. Now, next thing we have to do is get these guys pressed to the dark side. So let me bring up my pressing mat. Okay, and grab my iron. Okay, do you remember when we talked about pressing before? The importance of setting your seam. Just running your iron quickly along your sewn seam to set those pieces, to get the threads to marry so that you don't have any ladder stitching when you press it out. There we go. And my pink mark is going away because it's a heat erase. So we get them all just kind of set in together. And now we have to press. You are always going to put the fabric that you want to press towards on the top. I like to open them, give it a little finger press. Now this is a bias seam, so I want to be very careful not to stretch it. So I don't want to sew this way or press this way because that's going to stretch it. So I'm going to start here, and I'm just going to go straight up the block so that it does not stretch that seam right like that. Okay. And if you've ever watched any of my videos, you know that I like to take that and put it under my ironing mat just to help it set while I'm doing the next one. So quick finger press. And then going straight up the block, not up the diagonal. Well, I'm going up the diagonal, but I'm pushing my iron towards the straight of grain. Okay, get that one underneath. We've already set it. So quick finger press. And going up the straight of the grain. Just like that. And one more. And there we go. We have all 4 of them pressed and ready for trimming. So let me change up again and get my trimming stuff out, and we'll continue. All right, so I need these to be 4.5 inches. Right now they're a little bit larger. This is a 4.5 inch ruler, and they're a little bit larger than that, see? So that gave me a little bit of wiggle room when I was stitching. All right, so if you have a 4.5 inch ruler, you are going to take the 45-degree angle and lay it right on your diagonal seam. Now this is easiest to do when you're standing up, so you can look straight down on it. I'm sitting down, so we're going to just make it work. Okay, so we cut off one side. And if you're on one of these small mats or a rotating mat, it just makes it very easy for you to turn it. Make sure that when you turn it, your line stays right on there. And get your second side. Turn it again, realign. Now, if I didn't have the camera in my way and my machine here in the way, I would quickly just do both sides at once. But that gives me kind of an awkward, and I can't get a good seam there. But there we go. We have a 4.5 inch square. Now, if you do not have a 4.5 inch ruler, you're going to do it with a larger one. So this one is my 8.5. So I'm going to find the corner that starts with the ones in the corner, and here's my diagonal line. Oops, come down here. So here's the 1 inch, and here's my diagonal line. Now, when you look down here a little ways, see right here, that says 4.5. That little circle right there is my 4.5 inch. No, I'm sorry, that's a 4.25. This one right here that it is on is my 4.5 inch line. Okay, so the 4.25 is because this is an 8.5 inch ruler, so that's dead center. But I want this corner right there, the 4.5. So again, I'm going to line up on that diagonal line. I'm going to put it to start with right on that 4.5 and see how straight it is. And it is pretty straight, so I can probably, let me get it adjusted good. On this one, I can just cut 2 sides and be done. If it's wonky on one side, then you have to do all 4 sides again. I know this is terrible rotary cutting etiquette to hold my rotary cutter that way, like this, but we're just trying to get through this. Okay, and then I'm going to turn it around and just double check. I'm going to put it back on that 4.5 inch corner there. And see, this side is done, that side is done. I just need to cut off my little, oh, no, I did have a little bit there. Okay, so that's how it works. Start with your 45-degree angle on the line. Line it up. See if you can do it in just one. This one's very straight too, so I can just cut 2 sides. 1, 2. Make sure I got everything. I did. And then come back and just cut off my dog ear. So one more time with the large ruler. Line it up. See what I can do here. Well, I was very straight this time. Sometimes your triangles will be a little bit wonky. These are not. These are very straight, so I can just cut 2 sides. It's not a big deal if you have to trim all 4 sides. There we go. And take off my dog ear. Okay, so those guys are all ready to go. Now we need to bring back all of our other pieces that we set aside. The other 4 whites and the 1 single focus fabric. Now I'm going to take and I'm going to stack these together. You can be very, very, very careful and get them exact. So you only have to cut with 2 sides of your ruler. But I'm just going to rough stack them because I know that these are 5-inch squares and I need them to be 4.5. So they are rough stacked. I'm going to just put my ruler in the middle. I'm not going to go to the corner because I don't know that these are all exact. Put it right there in the center and cut all the way around. All right, here we go. I'm going to turn it at an angle and I'm going to just cut all 5 pieces at once. I'm using the titanium blades from the Fabric Hut, and oh my goodness, it makes it so easy to cut through multiple layers. And this blade, I've had this blade in for over a month, and it's still cutting like butter, so they really are fabulous. Okay, there we go. Now we have all of our blocks at 4.5 inches. So we're going to have a 12-inch finished block when we're done. All right, set everything aside. Okay, here we go. Oops, sorry, bumped the camera. Here we go. This is going to be our Shoo Fly block. We are going to put our focus fabrics in the corners pointing in, just like that. Okay, then we're going to take our final focus fabric, put it right in the center, with all 4 of these, and I've got to make sure I have them right sides up. Yep, this white on one, sometimes you have to catch it in the glare of the machine in order to see if you have the right side up, because they look so very similar. Okay, there we go. So that is our Shoo Fly block right there. Isn't that cool? But watch what happens with this particular block. I told you it was so versatile, because watch what happens if you just simply change the corner and the focus fabric. I'm just going around and moving the focus fabric in and the corner, or the white fabric out to the corner. Now with those very same pieces, you have what is called a friendship star. Isn't that fun? So sometimes the simplest blocks are fun to be able to just play with. Now if we were to turn this 90 degrees, we could make that. That's fun. Or turn them all 90 degrees and now your friendship star is spinning the opposite direction. Before it was going this way, now it's going that way. You know, you can just play. I always love to take, when I have a very basic block like this, or even some of the more complicated ones, before I sew them together, after I lay them out, I like to play with them and see what I can come up with. Okay, but today we're making Shoo Fly, so we're gonna get it back in there the way it goes and start sewing. One more. There we go. Okay, as always, I'm going to start with the two left-hand pieces, and I'm going to move the right-hand one off to the side. I'm going to flip the center onto the left, just like that, and I'm going to chain piece these. And when I'm chain piecing, I'm going to be very careful to stop right at the end and butt my next piece right up to it without any stitches in between. Or just, see, I took one stitch, so this is going to have one stitch in between, and it's just going to keep them to where they nest easily when I start sewing my rows together. Now I could have put on my foot with the guide, but this is still a 1/4 inch and I'm pretty comfortable using that. Okay, and the last one. Okay, now I can take these to my pressing mat and press right now, but I will wait and do it once I get all of them together. So I'm going to fold these back out like so. And I'm going to bring this row back in and flip them onto the center row. And I'm bringing them in exactly the same orientation as I moved them out. See, there's the one that I moved out. So it stays in the right orientation. Now, as I pull this down to get it under the needle, this one's going to come apart. And I'm going to lose one on the floor if I'm not careful. So I'm going to just put a clip there. It is not necessarily aligned yet, but it is clipped and ready for me to go when I sew. Alrighty, realign this one. I hope my hand is staying out of your way so you can see real well. And there we go. Getting close to the bottom, I'm going to stop and align this one. And keep it butted right up next to that one. Okay, and time to align this one so I know it is a perfect match. Okay. So I know I'm being very basic for some of you who have been quilting for a long time, but I want to make sure that this is really helpful for beginner quilters. So bear with me as I say things you probably already know, but I want to say them so that our new people will get them too. Okay, now it's time to press. And we have to think about which way we want to press these. I normally would press everything to the focus fabric or the darker fabric. However, up here we have a point. And these points, look how they are 1/4 of an inch away from the edge, which is what we want because that gets our seam allowance. But when you press a point towards the point, you get quite a lump here. And so if possible, I like to press away from that point. And when doing that with this particular thing, it's going to press it towards the white, which is okay. When I do that, I want to double check that I don't have any of my dark fabric hanging over this seam so it will shadow on the inside. And I don't here. Now, this one doesn't have any points, so I could just press towards the focus fabric. However, I want to be able to nest these seams. So in order to nest these seams, I need it to go the opposite direction of this. So on this one, again, I'm going to press towards the white. Just like that. Well, as I focus on getting them all laid out, I should probably put this under so I don't mess them up when I move them. Okay, here we go again. Pressing towards the white, away from that point. Just like that. And just like that. Okay, then we're going to press towards the white again, right here. Give it a little finger press if you want. It helps it lay down. Oh, I just laid that iron on my finger. Don't do that because that hurts. Alrighty. And then which way are we going to press this top one? Well, we have points again. So we're going to press it away from the points. And we want it to be opposite of this. So we're going to still press towards the white fabric. Give it a little press. There we go. And towards the white. There we go. Now we have all 3 rows pressed and ready to sew together. All right. So what are we going to do? We're going to take the bottom row or the top row. Doesn't matter where you start now because it's all the same. And we're going to just fold it up on top. See how our little stitch that we have between is very small, so it helps us nest these seams together. We're going to start here. I'm going to nest them. Just kind of push them together. You can, if you separate them out, you can feel the little divot here in the middle. So you want to wiggle your fingers together until it's one smooth without any little gap in the middle. And they just nest together so nicely. Look at that. And then up here and get my corners ready. And I'm not going to worry about this seam yet. I'm only going to worry to here. Unless you want to stop and pin, which you are welcome to stop and pin. But I'm just going to do one seam at a time. I'm going to come all the way up here. Sew until I get through that seam. Now I know it's locked together and I'm not going to move anything. I know this one is pretty close because it's still stitched together. So all I have to do is use my finger and lock that little nesting stitch in together. Now this seam is going up. So we do have to be aware right here at the end, we have to be aware that this doesn't get folded down. Let me move my camera just a little bit. Okay, and refocus. There we go. So now see right here, we're going to be really careful to keep that pointed up. If you need to, use a stiletto, a seam ripper, even a pen, as you pin, not pen, pin as you come up. Now mine stayed laying down, but if it didn't, you could use your seam ripper or something just to raise your foot and run it under there to get it back down together. You can still feel it nested, and off you go. I'm through that now, so I will realign this end, and there we go. And get to the end. Do the same thing with this side. I'm going to flip it up and over. nest this first seam. Look how nicely that is just right there together. And off we go. I'm through that one, so I'm stopping to adjust this one, getting it nested nicely. Again, going to be conscientious of this seam. I'm going to not watch it. I'm going to show you what happens if you're not careful. See how as it hit that foot, it flipped up? You just stop, roll it under, and keep going. Now this is also a seam that could get flipped, so we're just going to be careful of that. Just hold my fingers there so it stays down. And we're good. All right, now we have one more pressing to do. What is our standard? Press away from the points. So this whole seam here, we are going to press towards the center. And this whole seam, we will press towards the center. And then we will have our Shoo Fly block done. Now, by the magic of video, here is the one that is a friendship star. Same pieces, different look. See if you can see them both. Isn't that fun? So thank you for joining me today. I hope it was helpful. Half square triangles 2 at a time are really fun. Play with your blocks before you put them together. See what other designs you can come up with. And just enjoy yourself with quilting.